You know, it seems like campers are all the rage these days. Everybody's doing it, right? All the cool kids are getting a camper. But is it right for you? From a race fan's perspective, or from somebody who's just getting out to enjoy it, I think there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and we're going to talk about that. Now look, I'm like anybody else. I love to go to the racetrack, pull in there, start having fun from day one, right? From the second you get there. But there's some considerations to that. I mean, half the adventure's in the getting there, right? So I live in South Texas. Almost any race, unless it happens at COTA, is a road trip for me, right? I either have to fly away to it, or I have to spend days on the road trying to get there to make it happen. If I'm going to do that, I generally want to do this in comfort. But what about once I get there? Like once I get to the track, once I get set up, once I get everything in place, I just want to start having fun. But then I have to set all this stuff up. The allure of campers and motorhomes and camper vans and all that, they're certainly there. And we all love this allure of the camper vans and the motorhomes and this whole lifestyle. Imagine this, being able to just drive to your favorite racetrack, pull in there, hit to the campground, head to the infield, whatever you do, set up shop and start having fun. That's all good and great. But what about the cost involved with that? Is it always practical? Sometimes it might be, sometimes it may not be. There's a lot of options out there. You can buy your own rig. You can certainly rent one of these things from like the many places out there where you rent these things, but there's hidden fees associated with that. Do you buy one, or do you just rent one, or do you do something else entirely? There's a lot of options depending on what you want to do. Let's start off with the idea of buying one, right? Now, for me in my situation, for Kelly and I, my wife, buying one isn't probably the most feasible thing in the world, right? Now, my in-laws do it, her parents do it, her mother and her husband do it. But for us, it's not really practical, okay? I mean, now granted, they do the whole RV lifestyle. They live in this thing full time. They have a big fifth wheel. They have a big truck to pull it in. This is their home. They live in it full time. I'm not talking about those kind of people. I'm talking about people like you and I who go out to the racetrack, or we go out to the lake or whatever every once in a while. Is this feasible? For us in our situation, for like I say, for Kelly and I, it's not the best situation for us. I mean, we live in a fairly small town. We live in a nice little niche apartment complex here. We're happy with this. We're happy with this setup. Maybe we have some issues with the management company and the local manager here and there. But other than that, we're pretty happy with our little setup. Buying a rig is not practical for us. I'll tell you why. So this is something that I'm going to use 3, 4, 5, 6 times a year, right? So on top of the ownership costs, like buying it, you know, financing, if maybe you pay cash for it, whatever, it's a pretty good deal until you start thinking about the maintenance. You start thinking about, you know, having to pay for a place to park it, all this other stuff. For us, it just seems like we're kind of throwing money at this thing to use something 3, 4, 5 times a year. And then you have to, of course, you know, get to wherever you're going. You have to pay for your gas. You have to pay for your upkeep. You have to all of this other stuff, and you're paying insurance on this thing too. So there's a lot of things in there that just don't really seem practical to us to buy one right now. Now, maybe when we both fully retire, it's a great option. I mean, my wife's a Texas public school teacher, so we get, you know, summers off, right? I work remotely unless I'm doing a sponsorship gig. But for us, in our situation right now, I just don't think buying one is practical. For you, it might be practical. You know, you might be going to many more races a year than I am. You may be doing the NASCAR thing. You may have a track near where you live. You may have more options, right? That you're going to be going out and doing these things. Now, we're young. We're in our early 40s. We're still in pretty active lifestyles. But to us, it just doesn't justify the cost. For you, it may be completely different. You may have a little more freedom. Maybe you're a digital nomad. Maybe you're living in this thing full time. Then probably it's a good, reasonable housing alternative. Let's talk about renting these things. This has become an increasingly popular thing, okay? I've learned that renting isn't probably a bad thing. Now, I'll admit I never have, okay? I've never gone down that road. I've seen them, driving up and down the interstate looking like billboards for death. But that's all cool and great and everything. But I think you have the daily rate, you have the mileage. A lot of times you have the damage waivers. You have all these different fees, hidden fees packed into these things, not to mention your insurance, your fuel, and then you're having to pay the fees at the campgrounds, right? So you're pumping a lot of money into this thing. It's very cost heavy. But if you're only going to go out a few times a year and you really want to live that camper lifestyle, maybe that's the way to go. It may cost you a little bit more at once, but over a period of time, it's probably cheaper just to rent one. I would think that that's probably the way to go. Now, what do I do? Okay, well, when I go out on an adventure, when I go out on a race weekend or whatever, let's talk about this. For me, it's a little bit different. Let's talk about the short haul first. If I'm talking about the short haul, something that's, just Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Probably, I'm just going to my trusty Best Western. Now, this is not sponsored by Best Western. I'm not endorsing them in any way. It's just if you're a fan of my channel, I stay at a lot of Best Westerns, and generally I'm a fan. They're hit or miss, but this is what I do. I just find the closest Best Western. I rack up the points with it. They've been good to me for the most part. Sometimes they're crap, but it is what it is. Most of the time they're pretty consistently good. And I've done this enough, been around the tracks that I go to pretty regularly. And these Best Westerns, I know the ones I like to stay at. I book these things well in advance. Now, if it's a longer stay, and I'm talking about like for a week or 2 weeks, maybe we're going to Indianapolis, something like that. Airbnb and these STRs have been a real game changer for us, okay? Because I like to be able to cook my own food, since I've been on this diet. I'm trying to eat healthier, be a little bit more conscious about the things that I'm doing, right? I like to be able to just go in there, cook my own food, have it there ready to go. I pull in, I get a key, I'm done, drive 5 minutes to the track, whatever I need to do, everything's set up for me, ready to go. Long-term stay, a week or longer, Airbnb is the way to go. Sometimes I'll still use the Best Western if it's around a week, but certainly if it's longer than a week, I'm looking at an Airbnb. I kind of like just hurrying up and getting there, jumping in the car, putting it in drive and go, right? This is my thought process. I'm a huge fan of this. I think there's something to be said about the camper RV lifestyle inside the track, especially if you're doing a lot of these NASCAR events, things like that. It's a pretty big thing. If you go like Indy, it's a pretty big thing. I think there's certainly some advantages to it, for sure. There's also some disadvantages. I think there's different ways that you could play it, I'd be curious to know what your experience has been. Maybe renting one is the way to go. Maybe buying one is the way to go. Maybe just staying away from it altogether. Maybe that's the way to go too. Who knows? I don't know. It's all up to you. But I guess this is my point. We're all going to have our own thought process, our own unique situations. For me, most of the time, Best Western or Airbnb, it's the way I choose to go. Maybe you choose something different. I think the biggest takeaway from all this is figure out what works for you and do it. For my in-laws, certainly the full-time RV lifestyle, having your own rig, that's the way to do it. Would I do it? Probably not. It's not for me. But, maybe one day down the road, who knows, right? So I think the big takeaway here, find what works for you and do it. I'm Matt. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.